Hello everyone, this is Orlando from A Collector's Dream, and today we're going to go back to our pre-war, lessons or study session. So this is going to be part 2 of the pre-war, the Hager's book, the Comprehensive Guide to Rare Baseball Cards, 1886 to present. And last time we left off at the T206 area. Sorry about that. We left off at the T206, and that's where we're gonna take off here. So the T206, and here's a T206 card. I'll go ahead and focus a little bit on that, and I'll read a little bit about the T206. That set was distributed from 1909 to 1911, so it was a 3-year period. It was issued by the American Tobacco Company, and this is by far the most popular tobacco set of the 20th century. And if you can believe it or not, there were 100 million of these cards were issued all over the world. Think about that, 100 million of these were issued. And that's because American Tobacco Company was a monopoly. So they controlled every single brand. So in every brand, they would put some tobacco cards. And so again, 100 million of these were actually printed. There's 524 cards in the series. Only about 1 million survive today because of the paper drives that they had in the 2 world wars. So about 98% of them were destroyed or thrown away. Mothers and grandmothers everywhere thought that they were worthless junk, so they just kind of threw them away. The front of these cards have color litho pictures, which is either a studio or or an action pose or a portrait pose. And the backs of the cards and the bottom of the cards is all a white border. They're called the white border sometimes, that's what they're called. And on the bottom, it'll say the name of the player and the team that they played for. And the thing with these is they were distributed in so many different tobacco products or tobacco brands that the cards can be found with as many as 36 different backs. 36 different backs. And the Piedmont and the Sweet Cap are the most common. But some of them, they have like different factories, like this is factory 25. Some of them have 350 subjects. Even though it's still Piedmont, there's various variations of the Piedmont back. But there are actually 36 different backs. And as far as the rarity, I'm gonna go ahead and highlight so you can kind of see here in the book, the rarity as I read it off to you here. So it says here, let me see here, I can get the list here. Here's the rarity here. So first it says as far as the most common, it says Piedmont, Sweet Caporal, Polar Bear, Old Mill, and Sovereign. So Piedmont and Sweet Caporal are about the same. Polar Bear, Old Mill, and Sovereign. Polar Bear, Old Mill is similar. Sovereign's a little bit rarer. And then comes EPDG, which is El Príncipe de Gale. Those are the Havana cigarettes. Then you have the Carolina Bright, the red printing, the Hindu Brown, the Carolina Bright with the black. Then you have the Tolstoy, the American Beauty with no border. And the American Beauty are 1/8 of an inch narrower and thinner paper stock because of the way that they were put into the tobacco packs. They were a little bit thinner. And then, so you have the American Beauty, then you have the Hindu Red, the Cycle, Lennox, Drum, Use It, Broadleaf, and Ty Cobb. The Ty Cobb back is only available on the Ty Cobb card because that was put in a Ty Cobb tin of tobacco. So that one really is just only for Ty Cobb. So the rarest ones really are the Broadleaf, Use It, Drums, Lennox, Cycle. Those type of ones are the rarest ones. Now, this set, again, there's 524. It says 526 in this book, but there's 524 with all the variations and stuff like that. And, the thing with this set is that It was they were cut by hand, so they were printed on a thick paper stock, pressboard paper stock, but they were cut by hand and distributed in over 20 factories around America. So because of that, the card sizes vary by 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch. There are no exact sizes for T206. It says that the size list should be used as a guide, but anything under 1 3/8 and 2.5, or cards with perfect wire sharp corners, should be considered trimmed. So you got to take a look at that. It says T206, usually have a rough corner look. At the bottom of the cards, it says baseball in the back. It says baseball series on the back of the cards. And some of them, again, there's different ones. There's some that say 150 subjects, 350 subjects, 460 subjects, and then there's factory numbers. So, it's pretty complicated to really get into all of the different, backs, because there were so many brands. Like I said, there were 18, 19, 20 different brands, 19 different brands, including the Thai cob. And then within that, there's also sub rarities with the Piedmonts and stuff like that. So these are that's the 1909, 1911, and all the Hall of Famers are in here. Of course, Hannes Wagner is the rare one. There's around 50 known to exist, but you have the Thai cobs here. I'll show you here. You have the Thai cobs, and it shows you back in the day, the prices on the Thai cobs. And again, the green portrait was always been the most expensive, and then comes the bat-on shoulder is another one of the rarer ones, and the red portrait is actually the cheapest one, is the most available. But you can go ahead and take a look. And again, some brands, some backs, like the polar bear, there are some Hall of Famers that are not with the polar bear back. So it's a little bit of everything in this set. So anyway, there goes the alarm there. So that's pretty much it on this set. I'll just kind of read a little bit more about it, where it says here. I'll see if I can get a good look at it for you, so you can read along with me here a little bit. The set was distributed in 3 printings. Like I said, in 3 different years. Piedmont, Sweet Copper, and Old Mill were printed in all 3 years. So they're available in the entire set. So the other ones are not. The Southern League and the portrait cards were printed only in 1911. So only in 1 year will you find the Southern League and the portrait cards. The other 14 brand backs were printed in only 1 or 2 of the 3 print runs. The Hannes Wagner is extremely overvalued, it says here, but it's crazy because it keeps going up. Back then they were saying it was overpriced, and it was selling for $500,000 back then, which was the Gretzky one that sold. It says, so basically it's it tells you different ways to collect the sets. The minor leagues, there's 86 of those, the Southern Leaguers, the 18 different backs except the Thai cob. So it just kind of gives you an idea. There also are some proof cards available out there, but as far as the T206 cards, it is the most popular, and really the one that most people know when you talk about vintage and pre-war type cards. So here's the different backs. I want to just share that with you. The Sweet Caporal, Polar Bear, and the Piedmont. You saw the Piedmont back. That's the Piedmont back, so we'll leave that on here. Then you have the Polar Bears, which is really my favorite. The Old Mill, Sovereign, EPDG, Principe de Gales, the Carolina Brights. That's what that looks like. Some of these are really beautiful backs, and there's people that just collect the backs. The Hindu, there's Tolstoy. Those are Russian mouthpiece cigarettes. The American Beauty, these tend to be a little bit thinner than the other ones. The Cycle. Then you have the rare ones, which is the Lenox, the Broadleaf, the Drum, the Use It, and Thai Cob. So all of these different backs are how you can find the T206 cards. So moving on to 1910. 1910, you have the E90-3, which are American Caramel cards. So those were tobacco cards. Now we're going back to the American Caramels. Those were issued in 1909 by the American Caramel Company. in Philadelphia. They're similar to the 1909 E90s. Yeah, you see the E91s, these are the E93. So the backs are the same. As you can see, it says baseball caramels, but they're a little bit different. And there are only 20 issued in this particular set. And the only real stars in this set are Mordecai Brown, Frank Chance, Johnny Everett, Chick Gandil, Joe Tinker, and Ed Watch. So it's a tough set to find. The E90-3, it's kind of an extension of the E90 set that has a little bit more players on there. And then the next one here is the E91 that was printed in 1910. And these are really, really beautiful cards. They're a little bit better as far as the design on these, with a little bit of background versus just a plain no color. But the pictures, again, are kind of generic players. And so the American Caramel set, the E91, was issued in 1910, again by the American Caramel Company in Philadelphia. And it's a continuation of the 1908 and 1909 E91 candy cards. And again, the E91 set uses a generic player. They all kind of look alike. And the years can be separated in the 3 sets by their checklists. So this one, the set C, is the players from Pittsburgh and Washington and Boston. So as far as this one, of course, it has Walter Johnson, and that's really one of the bigger names. And since it does have Pittsburgh, you do have a Honus Wagner card in there in this particular set. So you can see some of the big guys here. You got the Fred Clark, you got the Walter Johnson, and you got the Honus Wagner. So other than that, in this book, you see the bold names are the ones that are the Hall of Famers. So the main cards in this particular set, set C, the E91, are the Walter Johnson and the Honus Wagner. And the back of the cards has the checklist of the different teams. It has the Pittsburgh team, the Washington team, and the Boston team, and it says American Caramel on that. So that's the E91. Next comes the E98 Anonymous. And this set is really the one that they found a lot of at the Black Swamp Find. And this was before the Black Swamp Find. So it's the E98 1910 Anonymous. It was issued in 1910 by an anonymous candy company. They think it's the C.A. Briggs Company. And the cards are very similar to the design of other e-cards, e-candy card sets. The front shows a color-tinted black and white picture of the player enclosed by a thick white border, and the player's name and the team are at the bottom of the card. On the back, it shows a checklist printed in brown ink. There's also some blank backs in that set. So this one does have a lot of stars. You know, it's a set of 30. And you can find it now. And these days you couldn't find it very easily, but now you can find it because of the Black Swamp Find. And again, these sets were really, really tough, and they are on thick string mulch press board, so they're pretty thick, you know. So, but it's got Christy Mathewson, John McGraw, Honus Wagner, Roger Breshnan, Ty Cobb, Huey Jennings, Chief Bender. This set is loaded with Hall of Famers: Cy Young, Connie Mack, Joe Tinker, Nabla Joy. So it's got a lot of Hall of Famers. It's a popular set, and now it's kind of readily available. You know, so you can probably get you can get some real high grade examples of that. The next set is the 1910 Bishop and Company. It's the E99, and that was issued in 1910, and that was issued in California, actually in Los Angeles. And this basically just comprises of Pacific Coast minor league players. So there aren't really any names, big names in this, no Hall of Famers and all that. So it's just a set of 30 cards. And I'm gonna skip right through that because even though they're rare, there's no really big names in that set. Along with a few other sets that in those years, there aren't really any big names, but I'm just gonna quickly go by them. The Contentina color set, the T209. And that was another tobacco card issued by the American Tobacco Company in 1910 in North Carolina. It's 16, but it's all 16 players, but it's all minor league players. So there's no big names in here at all. It's all from the Virginia, Carolina, East Carolina area. And it's just a rare issue with a pretty cool back with a Contentania cigarettes, but there really are no Hall of Famers in that set. So not something, only the die-hard pre-war people will really collect something like that. The next one's one that's kind of a little bit more popular, and that's the 1910, the coupon. It's a thin stock, the T213, and that was issued in 1910, again, by the American Tobacco Company, because the American Tobacco Company at that time was like fanatics. They owned every single brand, every single tobacco brand. So they just brought out, cards. Sometimes they all look the same on the front, but just different tobaccos and the brands in the back. So these are the coupon cigarettes. And these were produced in the Louisiana area. And these are pretty rare. And they do have some major league players, but also some Federal League and Southern Leaguers. And it's a 68 card set, so it's a pretty big set for those days. Most of them were, 16, 30 card set type things. And, again, the cards are in color, and it has the white border around it with the player's name there. And on the back, it says Coupon Mild Cigarettes Baseball Series. As far as Hall of Famers in there, there's a few, not a ton of them, but you do have a Christy Mathewson in there, Chief Bender. The big name there is really the Ty Cobb card, and you got Miller Huggins and Rube Marquard. So not real big names in the 1910 T213, but you still have the big guys, some of the big guys. Another rare set here is the Darby Chocolate, 1910, and that's an E271. Again, it's on the E is candy or gum type issue. So the E271 Darby Chocolate, it's really a tough set. It came in a little box of chocolates, and you can see the little box there. There are some big names in that set, including the Honus Wagner. There's a Walter Johnson, there's a Johnny Evers, a Tris Speaker, Mordecai Brown, and a Ty Cobb, and a Sam Crawford. So there are some big names. Here's the Sam Crawford right here. You can take a good look at the Sam Crawford. So you can find the cards, just the card, or in the with the box. And they had, again, chocolates in that box. And it's a tough issue. Probably won't see too many of these at all. So I'm going to go to the next one is the 1910. 1910, they started with the little round, the Juju drums. And the Juju drums, again, are E cards, E286. And they're tiny little discs. They were issued in 1910 by the Juju Drum Candy Company, and they were in little small metal tins with a Juju Drum candy inside. They're very, very rare, with less than 1,000 pieces that are known. The front of the card, it's similar design to the 1909 and 1911 Colgan chips. And the Colgan chips were produced in 3 years. This was only produced in 1 year. So it's a little bit rarer, tougher to find. And on the back, you see it says Baseball Stars, Juju Drum, one in every Juju Drum. And as far as the big players in this set, you do have a Honus Wagner, you've got Tris Speaker, you've got Christy Mathewson, and Ty Cobb. So you've got pretty much all the big names in the Juju Drum set. Again, 1910. A lot of stuff was produced in this period between 1910, 1909, and 1910. A lot of different issues. Most of them were the tobacco issues by the American Tobacco Company, but many others were by different candy issues. So next comes the 1910 Mellow Mint, and that's the E105. And that's got a really cool back. If you look at that, it says the Mellow Mint, the Texas Gum. And that's a really cool one. It was made in Temple, Texas. And you can see what the card looks like there. Very similar to a lot of those candy cards that you see with kind of a player that doesn't really look like a player. So these were sold in 5-cent packs of Smith's Mellow Mint gum. So these were technically one of the first gum cards. They actually had gum, bubble gum, because they were printed on very thin paper. They're difficult to find in high grade and are extremely rare. The cards feature a player surrounded by an 1/8-inch white border, and the bottom is the player's name, position, team, and league. So again, it's 50 cards on this set, printed a very thin paper, very tough to find these in any decent order. Decent condition. Next, we come with the 1910 Naja Athletics set. This is the E104. I just talked about the E105. This is the E104. And these were issued in 1910 in Philadelphia by the Naja Caramel Company. And there are a total of 36 cards with 2 variations in the 16 card and the 18 card set. So it kind of has like every player has like 2 cards. And you can see here, I'll show you, I'll kind of zoom down here. You see where it says, where it says Eddie Plank. See Eddie Plank, and it has 2 different Eddie Planks, 2 different Chief Benders, 2 different Frank Bakers, 2 different Eddie Collins. So it's and in the back it says play ball and eat Naja caramels, the winners. So this came actually with with caramels. So you see different things: gum, caramel, mints, all different type of things. So in 1910, they also released another tobacco issue, the T212. And again, it was released by the American Tobacco Company, but this one was in California. And these are Obac mouthpiece cigarettes. So 1910 Obacs. And you probably heard of them. They're rare, but I'm going to kind of skip by them because these were all, again, minor league players and players from the Pacific League and stuff like that, Northwestern League. So you're not going to see any, you can see there's no Hall of Famers here. Even though it's a set of 215 cards, you'll find a lot of them out there, but there are no Hall of Famers, so nothing really will stand out as far as this set here. And more 1910 cards is the Philadelphia Caramel Redbacks, the E96. And these are kind of cool. They're a 30-player card, and you can see it has all the players' list on the back. The back of the cards has the list. And they were issued again, by Philadelphia Caramel Company in New Jersey. And this is a continuation of the 1908 and the 1909 E91 series. It's the E96. So very, very similar look to these. And, again, it's they're 30 players, and they're printed on thick stock. So these are a little bit thicker card versus some of the other candy cards that are thinner. And the Philadelphia Caramel 1910s does have some big names, but it doesn't have any of the bigger ones like the Ty Cobbs and all that. It does have Connie Mack, Home Run Baker, Nabla Joy, Hugh Jennings, Mordecai Brown, Joe Tinker, Fred Clark, and Rube Marquardt. That's pretty much all of the big names on that set. So it's not a big popular set because it doesn't have Christy Mathewson and Cy Young and Ty Cobb and Hannes Wagner. Now we're getting into a little bit of a tougher issues. In 1910, and these were premiums. They were called the 1910 Plowboy Tobacco Premiums, R1. And these are, a little bit bigger pieces because these are 5 3/4 by 8. So they're more kind of like a premium. They're kind of like a cabinet type card. They were issued in 1910 by the Spalding and Merrick Company of Chicago. And this set is of cabinet-sized cards that were issued in the Chicago area and feature 25 players from each of the White Sox and Cubs team. Because this is one of the largest tobacco cards made, they are not as popular as the regular cabinet cards. The front of these are sepia tone action photos that aren't found in any other cards. They're very unique photos, which is one reason people do like these. The player's name is in the lower left-hand corner with the team name in the lower right-hand corner. And the backs, you see they say Extra Value Coupons, Plowboy, Cigarettes. As far as who's in this particular set, this Plowboy set is not one of the most desirable ones, even though it was the first one, because it doesn't have all the big names on here. It does have, Joe Tinker and Mordecai Brown and Frank Baker, Eddie Collins, but it doesn't have the big names. The big names are in the other in the other Plowboy set, which we'll get to in a minute. So again, in 1910, a lot of sets were produced in 1910. The Red Sun Beautiful. These have a green border, and they have a beautiful red back. It said Red Sun cigarettes. Again, they're produced by the American Tobacco Company, but these are all Southern Leaguers, and they really don't have, again, no big names in here. All of these players are pretty much just, you know, minor leaguers. They're all minor leaguers. Then after that, 1910 comes the silks. The American Tobacco Company produced silks, the S74. And these are really nice cards that really are not cards. They are actually a piece of silk. They're issued in 1910 by the American Tobacco Company. And it features the same players that are in the T205. So there's 120 cards, the same picture as the T205s, gold border cards, but printed in a piece of silk. And they have different color silks too. And they were issued as a premium in fancy cardboard packs of Turkey Red, Old Mill, and Helmar cigarettes. The backs, they have no backs, but they did come with a like a cardboard back that people would remove and use these to kind of make pillows and things like that, if you can imagine that. The silks come in many colors. They come in light and dark blue, or red, pink, yellow, and other colors. And there are some big names in the silks. There are, there's Cy Young is in there, Tris Speaker, Walter Johnson, and Ty Cobb. So you have a lot of the big names in there. Christy Mathewson, of course, is in there too. And those are some of the big ones: the Cy Young, the Christy Mathewson, the Walter Johnson, and Ty Cobb, of course, is the most expensive. And that's the 1910 color silks. More cards issued in 1910 with a standard caramel, the E93s. And they were issued by the Standard Caramel Company in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Again, it's a series of 30, and most of these are series of 30, and it has the name of all the players, and they're very similar to all the other caramel cards, all the E-cards, kind of like a generic type picture. Looks a little bit like the players sometimes, but it's not a photo or anything like that. And these do have, this is baseball stars in the back, and again, a set of 50. And there are some big names here. There is the Ty Cobb, which is the big one here. You can see the Ty Cobb. And there is a Honus Wagner, and a Cy Young, and a Christy Mathewson, Nat LaJoy, Addie Joss, John McGraw, Mordecai Brown. So this is a real popular set, the E93 Standard Caramel. Then you have the 1910 Williams Caramel. This was a kind of an ugly card because you could see it has like a red background and kind of an odd border on that thing. It was issued in Pennsylvania again by Williams Caramel. And the cards can be distinctive for the thickness of the paper. So it's very thick compared to the others, the E103s, which is very thin. So again, this has a Ty Cobb in there, Sam Crawford, Honus Wagner, Christy Mathewson. Most of these caramel cards, these E-cards, you're going to find a lot of the big name guys in there, like the Christy Mathewsons and stuff like that. Moving on, 1910. One of my favorite cards of Honus Wagner, one of my Grail cards. It's a tough card to find. Comes in 1910 to 1911 Naja Pirate set. And this was a set that was printed only in Philadelphia, only for the Pirates, by Naja Caramels. And the set contains 11 cards featuring the Pirates. And this is one of the rarer candy issues of that era. It's similar to the 1910 American Caramel E90-2, but it's a rarer version of this Wagner card. The players are in both studio poses, and on the bottom it'll say the player's name in blue with the Pittsburgh, with the name of the team, because they're all Pittsburgh. So really, you could see that the only big name here was Fred Clark, but mainly it's the Honus Wagner card. That's the big set in this in the 1910 Naja Pirates. Tough set, very tough to find, especially that Wagner. Then you also have the 1910, 1911 Naja Regular. And now the Naja Regular is very similar to the Naja Pirates, but it has other players. And it's a 30 card set versus an 11 card set. And this is one of the last and the rarest of the 3 Naja sets. And some of the big names here are the Sam Crawford, John McGraw, and Huey Jennings. So they're tough cards. Doesn't have a lot of Hall of Famers, but it does have some in there. Again, that's the Naja Candy issues. After that, you've got the 1910 Red Cross. And the Red Cross is a really cool back. As you can see, it says Smoke and Chew Red Cross Tobacco. It was more of a tobacco, loose tobacco type issue. It was issued by Red Cross Tobacco Company of Louisiana. And it's a division of, again, the American Tobacco Company. And this one has 87 cards, so it's a pretty big set. But it was issued throughout a couple of years. And the back of the card has a vertical format, and it says the best Red Cross tobacco. And some of the players in this set, and I'll show you real quick here, some of the Hall of Famers. There is Cy Young, Joe Tinker, Tris Speaker. There is a couple of Christy Mathewson cards in there, White Cap and Dark Cap, John McGraw, Walter Johnson, Home Run Baker, Sam Crawford, and there's the Ty Cobb card. So the Ty Cobb, Cy Young, those are pretty much the biggest one. There is no Hannes Wagner in this set. After that, we get to 1911, and we have the American Caramel. And this is the die cut card. It's kind of like a stand-up. It's the E125, and this is extremely rare. It's 1911, they issued American Caramel Company issued a very rare set, and a small hoard was found. But these are die-cut figures of baseball players featuring the Athletics, the Red Sox, the Giants, and the Pirates. So it's a 4-team checklist. There's 41 cards in there. There's a couple of Honus Wagners. There's a throwing and a batting. There's a Christy Mathewson, Eddie Plank, Tris Speaker. Extremely rare cards. You're probably not going to find many of these. So, but there are some big names in there. There is no Ty Cobb, but Honus Wagner says it all. Then you've got the 1911 Bishop and Company E100. And I'm going to skip through this. This is another one that was in the Pacific Coast League. So most of these are going to be minor league players. You can see they look very similar to some of the other candy issues. The only big name here is Buck Weaver. But most of these are from the Portland, Louisiana, Los Angeles, San Francisco type league. So they're minor leagues. So really no big names here. Then you got the 1911 Close Candy, the E94. And this one was issued by the George Close Candy Company in Massachusetts. And this does have a lot of big name players, and they have different backs. As you can see here, they have Bloom's Chocolate and some that just have the listing. The 4 different backs are the Close Opie, the Didlocks, the Close Sponge Cake, and the George Close Company, and the Bloom's Chocolate. So there's different cards and different rarities on those. I won't get into that on this video. You know, again, there's a lot of different rarities and things within these particular sets. But the big cards in this set is the Honus Wagner, 1911 E94 Honus Wagner, the Tris Speaker, John McGraw. You have a Cy Young in there also, which is a big card, and a Sam Crawford. And we are 30 minutes into this video, so I'm going to cover this last page and we'll leave it at that. Next, you have the Fireside Athletics, and this was made only for the athletics team, the A's team. And it's a set of 18 different cards, and these were produced by the Thomas Sullivan Company in Syracuse, New York. And it was to commemorate the athletics World Championship of 1910. So all the players of this team are included, with the exception of Jack Combs. And some of the players that are included are the Home Run Baker, Chief Bender, Eddie Collins, Connie Mack, Eddie Plank. And you can see what the cards look like. And they've got like a Athletic Series is Cullivan's Fireside Plain Scrap. So it's scrap tobacco they were inserted in. Again, the T's are the tobacco cards. Now we're going to move to one of the most desirable sets, I think, out there right now that people are realizing is the 1911 General Baking. Let's see where we at. Yeah. The 1911 General Baking Company. And these are really cool cards. And there's the Ty Cobb. These cards are a little bit bigger than most of the cards. They're 1 3/4 by 2.5, kind of a square type card. They were issued by General Baking of Buffalo, New York. And this was the first of the 2 sets that they made. The other one is the 1914, the D303. But this is the D304. The designs of these cards are very similar to the T206 design, but the set is extremely undervalued and 10 times rarer than the T206. The front of the cards usually exhibit an action pose of the player with a white border, and then you got the name and the team and the league on the bottom. There's 4 different types of backs. You have the Bruners, you have the Buster Brown, you have the Peerless Bread, and the Butter Crust. Well, this is the Bruner's Butter Crust. So you have the Butter Crust, the Buster Brown, the Peerless Bread, and the Martin's Bakery. And there's 25 subjects in this set, and you can see that the big names there are the Ty Cobb, the Honus Wagner, the Cy Young, the Christy Mathewson, and the rest of the guys, Sam Crawford, Home Run Baker, Nabla Joy, the rest of those guys are all in there. So really tough set to find, and kind of popular. This 1911 General Baking cards are pretty popular. And again, they did produce those in 1914, which I'll get to that on the next video. But I'll give you a quick look at the 1914 ones. Well, let's move it on here. We'll have to share that on the next video. So, got a lot of stuff. There's the other General Baking ones here. So we're going to get to those in another video. So right now, guys, we're all the way up to the 1911 gold borders. And that's where we're going to stop on this video. And we will continue further sharing some more of the book, Hager's book, where we'll get into more of the pre-war cards that you guys want to probably learn a little bit about. Very interesting stuff. So thanks for watching, guys. This is Orlando from A Collector's Dream, and I'll be putting out part 3 of my pre-war studies, I guess. Thanks for watching. Have an awesome day. Please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. This is Orlando from A Collector's Dream. Thanks for watching.